Here it is. Hello, HHHA board. During the board meeting, the board stated to me, you're all about the transparency. The tone was of a put down, but I take that as a compliment. Yes, I am. Thank you. As such, I'd like to break down for you how you are already appearing less than transparent as far as setting the meeting time and date. That way, if what you say is true, that you actually do care about transparency, you can change your course immediately. The great news about curing the appearance of transparency is that it's really easy. All you have to do is openly share the fact you appear to be hiding. It's so easy, especially since you have the internet to share it immediately. The longer that goes that you do not reveal it, the more it will look like you're withholding information. This advice on how to appear transparent was inspired by the fact that for the last meeting, I called the church to ask them about the meeting, and the secretary answered in a carefree tone. But a resident told me that on Monday they called to ask the same, and the secretary said she couldn't answer, that we had to ask the board. Today I called and got the same. It was the same secretary I spoke to last time. She sounded uncomfortable, said she couldn't tell me, but that I had to ask the board. That does not appear transparent due to the change of treatment. As far as appearances, it makes it appear as though you gave special directions to the secretary of this church to withhold the date and ordered her to tell people they had to ask the board. This change makes it seem like you are treating this meeting differently with the intent to obscure the date. This does not have the appearance of transparency, and you say you want to be more transparent. Also, if you want to appear transparent as far as setting the date, you should select Tuesday, April 11th at 7 p.m. Tuesday evenings are set out in the bylaws for a reason. It is because people are less likely to have conflicts on a Tuesday night than they would other times, and days you might pick like Fridays, weekends, or even Mondays when people are less available. If you set it on another day or time, the appearance will not be that of transparency. The appearance will be that you want a low turnout. This is how it appeared when the board was asked well ahead of time to send a notice that would comply with the bylaws and provide 10 days written notice to all residents, and you declined instantly, making assurances that the board would put up signs by the entrances and then did not even do that. If you are attempting to withhold the date until it is put on the mailer you agreed to send out 10 days ahead of the meeting, which you seem to act as though it was a courtesy on your part, not because it's literally ordered in the bylaws, in order to give those members filling out proxies the least amount of time possible to have the proxy forms notarized with the correct date on them, with hopes that as few as possible will have met the new hurdle of notarization, please know that is a futile withholding of information. Proxies do not require the meeting they are for to be identified by the date. But of course, notarization was also not required by the bylaws, and that new requirement was invented in the Tuesday meeting. The fact that the bylaw-based valid proxies were not allowed to vote on this new requirement did not appear transparent. It appeared like sheer physical bullying based on the number of physical bodies in the room. If you are planning to, at the meeting, invent the requirement that the actual date of the meeting be put on the proxy, or any other additional made-up requirement, it will appear as another quite obvious, flailing, desperate move to not have the proxies counted. This is the sort of thing that I meant when I stated the board is transparent but not the way they want to be. Another example is the president bemoaning his martyrdom of being the president because nobody else would do it, then fighting so desperately hard to hold on to that position. Transparent, but not the way the board would want to be transparent. Also, the fact that the minutes were not brought to the meeting doesn't look transparent. The meeting minutes from last year are available and were available during the meeting on your very own website, hawthornhills.com. They are available and were available during the meeting on my website, hawthornhillstransparency.org, at any time too, but without a password. Here's a YouTube to help you remember the availability of documents to anyone at any time with an internet connection. The fact that the minutes that were accidentally not brought to the meeting do not reflect the December 12, 2022 statement in the newsletter that the PATH plans are planned to resume, and the minutes were forgotten is another example of being transparent but not in a good way. Also, please stop saying I'm leading a misinformation campaign as you repeat it again in the meeting. When I asked the board which document they believe I've manufactured or have misled people with, there was no answer. That made you not look transparent. If there was a specific thing I published that is wrong, you should be able to tell me which thing it is. I've done my best with all the board has provided. That alone contradicts so much of itself. If it's misinformation because the board has changed its mind again in the twinkle of an eye, and I'm not a mind reader, that does not amount to a campaign of misinformation. If it's because you paid Miller Landscape only $2,000, as you said in the meeting, and the $20,000 the budget demonstrates that was paid for surveying went to a different company other than Miller Landscaping, that also does not amount to a misinformation campaign. Also, it's okay if you don't like me. Not everybody has to, but to continue to call me a liar is slander. We've repeatedly asked for invoices other than the scant few on the Hawthorn Hills website, and they've not been forthcoming. Providing all invoices and bank statements would fill in those gaps that were logically filled with the best information available to us. That would appear transparent in a good way. Just wanted to help you ahead of time navigate this with the good kind of transparency, not the bad kind. I tried to help ahead of time with transparency by sharing the bylaws you were breaking by not giving notice ahead of the meeting. I know you say that you do not monitor the Facebook page, but Facebook shows you who has seen things when you roll your mouse over it, and board members saw it. I don't know if you know that. I don't know if you are aware that when you say both that the board does not control the Facebook page, but leaves posts up in the interest of transparency, belies both the opposite meanings, that you do not have control over it while you do have control over it. That is another outright contradiction that demonstrates quite the opposite of transparency. If you would like more help with being transparent, I wish you would have accepted my offer to be secretary back in August in response to your newsletter. I would have been able to help you from at the very least from saying such patently contradicting things in your communications that you're now having to pretend they don't exist or are fiction. They're already out there, so it makes you look really dishonest when you say things like that. As secretary, I could have also helped Bill mail things out by utilizing the mail shop service you said you use for all mailers. It's really sad that he wasn't told he didn't have to do all that by himself and he had no help. It seems like you are not in communication with each other. When the president said he, referring to Bill, made a mistake, I don't agree with him. The entire board has failed to help him to know what help was available to him and appears to have misled him into following the example of bylaws don't matter because rules don't apply to us. If only the president could so easily admit even one of his mistakes he made, as easily as he threw Bill under the bus at the meeting by saying he made a mistake. Another way it seems like you aren't even in communication with each other is how you can't get your story straight. For example, the secretary dismissed the request for information on HOA management companies by saying she'd already had estimates from 2 companies. When I immediately replied to her email, what are the names of the companies, she fell silent. Meanwhile, you told someone else that you had a quote for a single company and it was $30,000, but did not provide the name of the company. Can you remind me what the meeting report on the issue was? I couldn't hear the mumbling, just like I couldn't hear her clearly on the I forgot the minutes statement. Various others have filled me in. Did she say she called associate and they'd never heard of us? I have an email chain back and forth with an associate from that company. He never received a call from Hawthorn Hills, from a Hawthorn Hills board member. I don't know that they'd know the name Hawthorn Hills. Did they ask for someone that had been in touch with Wendy Bratton? Thanks, Wendy.